Victor Marie Hugo, 26th of February 1802 to the 22nd of May 1885, was a French romantic author, poet, essayist, playwright, journalist, human rights activist and politician. His most famous works are the novels The Hunchback of Notre Dame, 1831, and Les Miserables, 1862. In France, Hugo is renowned for his poetry collections such as Les Contemplations and The Legend of the Ages. Hugo was at the forefront of the Romantic literary movement with his play Cromwell and drama Hernani. His works have inspired music both during his lifetime and after his death, including the opera Rigoletto and musicals Les Miserables and Notre Dame de Paris. He produced more than 4,000 drawings in his lifetime and campaigned for social causes such as the abolition of capital punishment and slavery. Although he was a committed royalist when young, Hugo's views changed as the decades passed and he became a passionate supporter of republicanism, serving in politics as both deputy and senator. His work touched upon most of the political and social issues and the artistic trends of his time. His opposition to absolutism and his literary stature established him as a national hero. Hugo died on the 22nd of May, 1885, aged 83. He was given a state funeral in the Pantheon of Paris, which was attended by over 2 million people, the largest in French history. L'Année Terrible is a series of poems written by Victor Hugo and published in 1872. They deal with the Franco-Prussian War, the trauma of losing his son Charles, and with the Paris Commune. Covering the period from August 1870 to July 1871, a group of poems encapsulates each month, blending Hugo's anguish over personal tragedies with his despair at the predicament of France. I take up pen to tell of the terrible year, and suddenly I stop, elbows on my desk. Must I proceed? Must I go on? France, what horror to see a star fade in the heavens. I feel the lugubrious ascent of disgrace, dismal anguish. One curse falls, a new one rises. No matter, let's continue. History needs this. The century is in the dock and I am his witness. Dedicated to the people of Paris, the cycle begins with the Battle of Sedan, which resulted in the capture and exile of Napoleon III, and Hugo's triumphant return to Paris on the 5th of September 1870. Only to see the city besieged by Otto von Bismarck's forces on the 19th of the same month. The siege ended more than 4 months later on the 28th of January 1871, by which time Paris was devastated. France lost Alsace-Lorraine to Prussia. On the 13th of March 1871, the day before he intended to return to Paris, Hugo was attending a farewell dinner for friends at a restaurant in Bordeaux when a carriage bearing his son Charles arrived. When the carriage door was opened, his son was found dead of a stroke and covered with blood from his mouth and nose. The death of Charles's wife shortly afterwards would result in Victor becoming the guardian of their 2 children. The funeral took place at Père Lachaise Cemetery on the 18th of March, the same day that 2 generals were murdered, marking the beginnings of an insurrection. 3 days later, Hugo left for Brussels to settle his son's affairs. The continued presence of a garrison of German soldiers in Paris and fears of a royalist restoration led to an insurrection in late March, and the city was ruled by the Paris Commune until late May 1871. While Hugo condemned the violence, he endorsed the idea of the state within a state, and this led to his expulsion from Belgium on the 1st of June, after an attack on his lodgings. He took refuge in Vianden, Luxembourg, when Marshal Patrice de MacMahon retook Paris. Many were executed and thousands more imprisoned or exiled. Hugo finished L'année terrible while at Vianden, and it was published in April 1872. It was a huge success on the same order as Le Châtiment, but his sympathy for communards ended his political career. Although he pleaded with God in one poem for the preservation of his surviving children, his other son, 161Victor, died on the 26th of December 1873 after a long illness. He returned to the theme of revolution in the novel 161Victor, 1873, which dealt with the events of 1793. Victor Hugo, L'année terrible, the terrible year. To little Jean, September 1870. You've lived a year, then, yesterday, sweet child, prattling thus happily, so fledglings wild, new hatched in warmer nest neath sheltering bough, chirp merrily to feel their feathers grow. Your mouth's a rose, Jean, in these volumes grand, whose pictures please you while I trembling stand, to see their big leaves tattered by your hand. Are noble lines, but nothing half your worth, when all your tiny frame rustles with mirth to welcome me. No work of author wise can match the thought half springing to your eyes, and your dim reveries unfettered, strange, regarding man with all the boundless rage of angel innocence. Methinks 'tis clear that God's not far, Jean, when I see you here. 12 months old, 'tis quite an age, and brings grave moments, though your soul to rapture clings. You're at that hour of life most like to heaven, when present joy no cares, no sorrows leaven, when man no shadow feels, if fond caress round parent twines, children the world possess. Your waking hopes, your dreams of mirth and love, from Charles to Alice, father to mother, rove. No wider range of view your heart can take than what her nursing and his bright smiles make. They two alone on this your opening hour can gleams of tenderness and gladness pour. They two, none else, Jean, yet 'tis just and I, poor grandsire, dare but to stand humbly by. You come, I go, though gloom alone my right, best be the destiny which gives you light. Your fair-haired brother George and you beside me play, in watching you is all my pride. And all I ask, by countless sorrows tried, the grave over which in shadowy form may show your cradles gilded by the morning's glow. Pure newborn wanderer, your infant life, strange welcome found, Jean, in this time of strife. Like wild bee humming through the woods, your play and baby smiles have dared a world at bay. Your tiny accents lisp their gentle charms to mighty Paris clashing mighty arms. Oh, when I see you, child, or when I hear you sing or try with low voice whispering near, and touch your fingers soft my grief to cheer, I dream this darkness where the tempest's groan trembles and passes with half-uttered moan, and for these 100 towers of Paris bend, though close as foundering ship her glories end. Thou rocks the universe which we defend, still to great cannon on our ramparts piled, God sends his blessing by a little child. To a sick child during the siege of Paris, November 1870. If you continue thus so wan and white, if I one day behold you pass from out our dull air to the light, you infant, I so old, if I the thread of our two lives must see, thus blent to human view, I who would fain know death was near to me and far away for you. If your small hands remain such fragile things, if in your cradle stirred, you have the mien of waiting there for wings, like to some new-fledged bird. Not rooted to our earth you seem to be, if still beneath the skies you turn, O Jean, on our mystery, soft, discontented eyes. If I behold you gay and strong no more, if you mope sadly thus, if you behind you have not shut the door through which you came to us, if you no more like some fair dame I see, laugh, walk, be well and gay, if like a little soul you seem to me that fain would fly away, I'll deem that to this world where oft are blent the pall and swaddling band, you came but to depart, an angel sent to bear me from the land. The Carrier Pigeon, January 1871. Who then, who is like our God so great? Who makes the seed expand beneath the mountain's weight? Who for a swallow's nest leaves one old castle wall? Who lets for famished beetles savoury apples fall? Who bids a pygmy win where titans fail in yoke, and in what we deem fruitless roar and smoke, makes Etna Chimborazo still his praises sing, and saves a city by a word lapped neath a pigeon's wing. Toys and Tragedy, January 1871. In later years they'll tell you grandpapa adored his little darlings, for them did his utmost just to pleasure them and mar no moments with a frown or growl amid their rosy rompings, that he loved them so, though men have called him bitter, cold and stern. That in the famous winter when the snow covered poor Paris, he went old and worn to buy them dolls, despite the falling shells at which laughed Punch and they, and shook his bells. Morning, March 1871. Charles, my son, hast thou then quitted me? Must all fade, naught endure? Hast vanished in that radiance clear for thee, but still for us obscure? My sunset lingers, boy, thy morn declines, sweet mutual love we've known, for man, alas, plans, dream, and smiling twines with others' souls his own. He cries, this has no end, pursues his way, he soon is downward bound. He lives, he suffers, in his grasp one day, mere dust and ashes found. I've wandered 20 years in distant lands with sore heart forced to stay. Why fell the blow? Fate only understands. God took my home away. Today one daughter and one son remain of all my goodly show. Well nigh in solitude my dark hours wane. God takes my children now. Linger ye too, still left me, though it decays our nest, our hearts remain. In gloom of death your mother's silent praise, I in this life of pain. Martyr of Sion, holding thee in sight, I'll drain this cup of gall and scale with step resolve that dangerous height, which rather seems a fall. Truth is sufficient guide, no more man needs than end so nobly shown. Mourning but brave, I march where duty leads. I seek the vast unknown. The lesson of the patriot dead. April 1871. Upon the grave's cold mouth there ever have caresses clung, for those who died ideally good and grand and pure and young. Under the scorn of all who clamour, there is nothing just, a bow to dread inquisitor and worship lords of dust. Let sophists give the lie, hearts droop and courtiers play the worm. Our martyrs of democracy the truth sublime affirm. And when all seems inert upon this seething troublous round, and when the rashest knows not best to flee, stand his ground. When not a single war cry from the sombre mass will rush, when over the universe is spread by doubting utter hush, then he who searches well within the walls that close immure, our teachers, leaders, heroes slain because they lived too pure, may glue his ear upon the ground where few else came to grieve, and ask the austere shadows, "Oh, and must one still believe?" Read yet the orders, "Forward, march, and charge!" Then from the line, which burnt the bones but left the soul, O tyrant's useless cry, will rise reply, "Yes, yes, and yes," the thousandth time. The Boy on the Barricade, June 1871. Like Casabianca on the devastated deck, in years yet younger but the self-same core, beside the battered barricado's restless wreck, a lad stood splashed with gouts of guilty gore, but gemmed with purest blood of patriot more. Upon his fragile form the trooper's bloody grip was deeply dug while sharply challenged. "Hey, were you the one of this currish crew?" Pryden pursed his lip, as firm as band dogs brought the bull to bay, while answered he, "I fought with others, yea." "Prepare then to be shot, go join the death-doomed row." As paced he pertly past, a volley rang, and as he fell in line, mock mercies once more flow of man's lead lightning sudden scathing pang. But to his home-turned thoughts the balls but sang. "Here's half a franc I saved to buy my mother's bread." The captain started, who mourns not a dear. "The dearest mother, where is she?" "Wolf cub," he said, still gruffly, "there, do you see, not far from here. Haste, make it hers, then back to swell their beer." He sprang aloof as spring gold from detested school, or ocean rover from protected port. The little rascal had the laugh on us, no fool, to breast our bullets, but the scoff was short, for soon the rogue is racing from his court, and with still fearless front he faces them and calls, "Ready, but level low, she's kissed these eyes." From cooling hands of men each rifle falls, and their grey officer in grave surprise life grants the lad whilst his last comrade dies. Brave youth, I know not well what urged thy act, whether thou'lt pass in palace or die racked, but then shone on the guns a sublime soul, a Bayard boy's bound by his pure parole. Honour redeemed, though paid by parlous price, though lost be sunlit sport's wild boyhood spice. The gates, the cheers of mates for bright device, Greeks would, Willem, have choicely clasped and circled thee, set thee the first to shield some new Thermopylae. Thy deed had touched and tuned their true Tyrtaeus tongue, and staged by Aeschylus grouped thee grand gods among. And thy lost name, no noun for more, be gilt engraved on cloud-kissed column by the sweet south, ocean laved. From us no crown, no honours from the civic sheaf, purely this poet's tear bejewelled eye green leaf. To his orphan grandchildren. July 1871. I feel thy presence, Charles, sweet martyr, down in earth where men decay. I search and see from cracks which rend thy tomb burst out pale morning's ray. Close linked are bier and cradle, here the dead to charm us live again. Kneeling I mourn when on my threshold sounds two little children's strain. George Jean, sing on, George Jean, unconscious play, your father's form recall, now darkened by his sombre shade, now gilt by beams that wandering fall. O knowledge, what thy use? Did we not know death holds no more the dead, but heaven where hand in hand angel and star smile at the grave we dread? A heaven which childhood represents on earth, orphans may God be nigh, that God who can your bright steps turn aside from darkness where I sigh. All joy be yours, though sorrow bows me down, to each his fitting wage. Children are past lifespan, and men are plagued by shadows at that stage. Hath any done, nay, only half performed the good he might for others? Hath any conquered hatred, or had strength to treat his foes like brothers? Even he who tried his best hath evil wrought. Pain springs from happiness. My heart has triumphed in defeat. My pulse ne'er quickened at success. I seem the greater when I felt the blow. The prick gives sense of gain. Since to make others bleed my courage fails, I'd rather bear the pain. To grow is sad, since evils grow no less. Great height is marked for all. The more I have of branches, more of clustering boughs, the ghastlier shadows fall. Thence comes my sadness, though I grant your charms. Ye are the outbursting of the soul in bloom, steeped in the draughts of nature's boundless spring. George is the sapling set in mournful soil. Jean's folding petals shroud a mind which trembles at our uproar, yet half longs to speak aloud. Give, then, my children, lowly, blushing plants, whom sorrow waits to seize, free course to instincts, whispering mid the flowers, like hum of murmuring bees. Someday you'll find that chaos comes, alas, that angry lightning's hurled, when any cheer the people, Atlas huge, grim bearer of the world. You'll see that since our fate is ruled by chance, each man, unknowing great, should frame life so that at some future hour fact and his dreamings meet. I, too, when death is past, one day shall grasp the end I know not now, and over you will bend me down, all filled with dawn's mysterious glow. I'll learn what means this exile, what this shroud enveloping your prime, and why the truth and sweetness of one man seems to all others crime. I'll hear those miss these dismal vows you sang. How came it that for me, who every pity feel for every woe, so vast the gloom could be? I'll know why night relentless holds me, why so great a pile of doom, why endless frost enfolds me, and methinks my nightly bed's a tomb. Why all these battles, all these tears, regrets, and sorrows were my share, and why God's will of me a cypress made, when roses bright ye were. To the Canon, Victor Hugo, 1872. Thou deadly crater, moulded by my muse, cast thou thy bronze into my bowed and wounded heart, and let my soul its vengeance to thy bronze impart.